My name is Catherine. When I was little, my mother divorced my father and raised me as a single mom. We weren't wealthy, and even as a child, my dream was to become rich and live in a high rise apartment. So I studied hard and worked part time while in school, eventually getting into a medical university. Afterward, I obtained my medical license, and after working in plastic surgery, I am now working as a cosmetic surgeon. Even after my salary increased significantly, I continued saving diligently without wasting money. And by the time I was 30, I had saved enough to buy a high rise apartment. As a token of appreciation, I also send money to my mother, who raised me while working. There were times when I had a boyfriend, but since I wasn't fixated on marriage and focused on my career, I found myself turning 30 without realizing it. As I was thinking that maybe getting married would put my mother's mind at ease, I got a call from my high school friend, Bob. Bob and I used to hang out a lot, but we naturally lost touch after entering college, and we hadn't had the chance to meet since then. So, feeling nostalgic, I decided to meet up with Bob. When I saw Bob after a long time, he seemed calmer than in high school, and I felt that we had both grown up. Our conversation flowed naturally, and I found myself gradually attracted to Bob, who kept me entertained. We went out for meals a few times, and after Bob asked me out, we started dating. We ended up getting married when I was 31. Can I talk to you about something before we get married?
Sure. What's up?
I've been working hard and saving money since I was a student, and it's always been my dream to buy a high rise apartment.
What? I had no idea you had such a dream, but I don't have the income to buy a high rise apartment.
It's not that I want you to buy it, I want to buy it myself.
Wow. Do you really have enough money to buy a high rise apartment? If you want to buy it, that's fine with me. I don't have any strong preference for a house.
I'm glad to hear that. I've already found an apartment I like. Would you come with me to check it out? So, we went to see the apartment together, and I fell in love with it at first sight. Thinking about the future, I decided to buy a 3 bedroom unit. Since I'm frugal and didn't want to waste money on interest, I decided to pay for it all at once. I considered putting both our names on the deed, but having seen my parents' divorce up close, I decided to keep it in my name only just in case. However, I had no idea at the time that this decision would later help me.
I feel pathetic having you pay for everything, Catherine.
Don't say that. I just bought what I wanted.
Thank you so much. I don't know if I deserve to live in such an amazing place.
When we first moved in, Bob was hesitant, and I regretted buying the high rise apartment a little. Maybe buying the apartment before getting married hurt Bob's pride. But having watched my mother since I was a child, I never felt the need to rely on a man. Whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, people get used to their environment. And within a week, Bob started to enjoy living in the high rise apartment. Seeing Bob excitedly going to the gym on the first floor or taking the elevator to the top floor for no reason, like a child, reminded me of his innocent side in high school. He still has a childlike side. I couldn't help but find Bob adorable. As we began our married life, I made an agreement with Bob. We would each manage our own finances instead of having a joint account, split the living expenses equally, and we would save $200 each month jointly. Bob was reluctant at first, but after I convinced him that we would help each other if needed, he agreed. A few weeks later, we registered our marriage and started our newlywed life. Once again, nice to officially be with you.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Our newlywed life was going well. Both Bob and I were busy with work, But on our days off, we enjoyed watching movies at home or spontaneously going on day trips, making every day fun. One day, Bob asked me about a dinner party.
We didn't have a wedding, right? I want to introduce you to my college friends on our next day off. Can I invite them over?
Sure, that's fine on a day off. I never really dreamed of having a wedding and had few relatives, so we decided not to have a wedding ceremony to avoid making my mother feel uncomfortable. Bob's mother, Sarah, complained a bit, but his father convinced her, and since Bob wasn't enthusiastic about it either, we just took some wedding photos and that was it. So, I hadn't met most of Bob's friends, and I thought this dinner party would be a great opportunity. On the day of the dinner, 2 men and 2 women were coming over, and I nervously greeted them.
Hello. Welcome. Come on in. Everyone, make yourselves at home.
Nice to meet you. I'm Catherine.
Nice to meet you. Bob, you did well. She's beautiful.
This place is so spacious and clean.
Everyone was sharing their thoughts.
Bob, this house is amazing.
Yeah, it was tough. I saved up little by little.
What? I bought it though. I couldn't say anything, but it seemed like Bob's friends thought he had bought the house. He probably got carried away and said it himself. I understood that it's common for the man to buy the house and considered Bob's pride, so I kept quiet.
I want to live in a place like this too. Bob, give me one of the rooms too.
A female friend named Emily joked with Bob.
If Catherine's okay with it, I'll get it ready.
Bob seemed in a great mood from all the compliments, and the 2 of them were laughing together, their faces close. I felt uneasy about how close they were, and when I looked around, I noticed the other friends seemed uncomfortable too. Then, Emily suddenly turned to me and said,
It's great that Bob bought you such a nice house.
"What is that supposed to mean?" It's like she's saying, "You didn't do anything." I contributed money too. I paid for all of it. I was angry at Emily's attitude and wanted to counter her, even just a little.
Oh, really? Oh, right, you're a cosmetic surgeon. I could never go for plastic surgery.
For some reason, she knew about my profession, which bothered me, but I tried not to let it get to me, and I felt that continuing to talk to Emily would be pointless, so I forced a smile. Still, Emily continued to attack me under the guise of being friendly.
Bob, don't let Catherine boss you around. Catherine, if you need to know anything about Bob, just ask me. I know him best.
Throughout the rest of the dinner party, Emily kept making tactless comments, and the other friends had to step in to smooth things over. The atmosphere became uncomfortable, and we ended the party early. Emily left looking bored.
That was fun. Catherine, you must be tired, right? Thanks.
I'm a bit tired, but it's okay. Emily is really something.
Yeah, she's really cute.
I intended my comment to be sarcastic, but Bob complimented her. What? Oh yeah, she's cute, but
Emily is always very close with people. Sorry about that.
Bob smiled happily. Indeed, Emily sat next to Bob during dinner and was quite touchy. Yeah, it seemed like you two were really close. I found it hard to talk to her.
You're just too smart, Catherine. Emily is a typical modern girl.
Why does he always side with Emily? I see. Sorry, but I'm tired, so I'm going to bed. I couldn't stay calm, so I went to bed feeling uneasy. After that, Bob started going out with his friends more often. I don't like being controlling, so I didn't say anything. But our first year of marriage wasn't as enjoyable as I had hoped. Then, as we entered our second year of marriage, Bob suddenly said something surprising.
I'm thinking about changing jobs. I don't feel like I belong at my current company. There's a lot of overtime, and all my bosses are jerks.
He started complaining more and more about his job. Even though he said there was a lot of overtime, it was only about 2 hours at most and only a few times a month. But I don't think your overtime is that bad, and your salary is pretty good. Wouldn't it be a shame to quit? Are you going to a job that pays more?
Work isn't all about money, you know?
Well, that's true. Work isn't just about money. I felt a bit guilty for my narrow perspective.
And since we don't have a mortgage, it should be fine, right? Your money is our family's money, isn't it? It's okay if I don't work for a while.
But if we have kids, I won't be able to work for a while, so I'd like to save up while I can.
So, you're okay with me getting depressed?
What? Why would you say that?
Because you're pushing me to keep working when I'm struggling.
But you've never complained about your job before. If it's that bad, maybe you should see a doctor? Bob looked a bit panicked.
No, it's not that bad. But anyway, I'm definitely changing jobs.
It seemed like Bob was set on changing jobs and wouldn't listen to anything else. All right, but find a new job before you quit. I set this condition, and he agreed. However, a month later, Bob quit his job without having secured another one. Wait, you quit without finding a new job? What are you going to do next?
Don't worry. I'm asking one of my friends if I can interview at her company.
When I pressed Bob about it, I was surprised by his unexpected answer. Your friend's company?
Yeah, she works at a restaurant, and I thought I might work there.
Is that a full-time position?
Well, probably.
Bob answered while avoiding eye contact, and I suddenly felt a rush of anxiety that it might be a part-time job. Of course, I have no problem with a woman working and the man being a stay-at-home husband, but we don't have kids, and I currently do most of the housework, so I couldn't picture Bob doing it. If it's not a full-time position, look for something else. I made sure to lay down this condition. Will it really be okay if Bob and I have kids? From that day on, I started feeling less enthusiastic about having children. A few days later, Bob went to the interview and got the job, but it turned out to be a part-time position, not full-time. Are you really going to take that job?
Sorry, it's part-time, but Emily said if I work hard, I can become a full-time employee.
Emily? Bob looked like he had let something slip. Do you mean Emily, the one who came over to our house before?
Well, yeah, that's right. When I told her I was in trouble, Emily introduced me to the job.
So, he's going to work part-time at the restaurant where Emily works. Remembering how close Bob and Emily seemed and how openly hostile she was to me, I felt a headache coming on. Why didn't you tell me about this?
I thought you'd get jealous, but really, we're just friends.
Bob spoke nonchalantly. And you quit your job for this?
Well, I'm not sure yet, but I want to give it a try.
Since he's already got the job, it's better than being unemployed. All right. I forced myself to accept it and replied with difficulty. However, a month after starting work at the restaurant, Bob began coming home late more often. Even on early shifts, he sometimes wouldn't get home until after midnight, and he increasingly came home in the morning after drinking.
I'm working overtime, so I can't help it.
Bob said this, but the restaurant was supposed to close at 9 p.m. It would be fine if he was just getting along with his coworkers, but knowing Emily was there made me uneasy. You were late again today.
Everyone loves to go out for drinks. I don't want to go, but since I'm the newbie, I have to.
But are you okay with money?
Well, I spent a lot this month, so I can't cover the living expenses or savings.
Since switching to the restaurant job, Bob stopped contributing financially. It's one thing if he couldn't pay because of a lower income, but he was spending all his money on drinking, and I was shocked by his lack of planning. Make sure you pay next month,
I know.
Bob said with a carefree smile. However, he continued going out drinking and coming home in the morning, not changing his behavior. I kept covering the living expenses, and since Bob wasn't saving the agreed $200 each month, I stopped saving as well. What are we going to do in the future? As I was feeling anxious, an even greater tragedy was about to strike me.
Catherine, I need to talk to you.
What's up?
My mom is getting a divorce, and she wants to live with us.
A divorce?
Yeah, according to her, my dad is cheating, but my dad says he's fed up because she just lies around all day and doesn't do any housework or work.
I thought his dad might be right. When I visited their home, it was always messy. I had never seen Sarah cook. She always ordered takeout. Sarah also had a sharp tongue and was very blunt, so I didn't like her much. The idea of living with her was unthinkable to me. I'm sorry, Bob, but living together would be tough for me.
Why?
I'm not close to Sarah, and I'm not confident I could get along with her.
I see.
Then Bob looked at me coldly and said,
I've thought this for a while, but you're a cold person, Catherine.
His comment made me snap. How can you say that? Why should I take care of your mom when you're not even contributing to our living expenses?
What? How can you say that? I'm spending money on socializing. These connections will help with my future job. Your mind is always on money, Catherine.
He hit a sore spot, but it was his behavior that made me think this way.
There's a spare room, so it's fine, right?
Okay, but only for 3 months. Sarah should be able to find another place to live in that time. If that's the case, then fine.
You're so stingy. All right.
So, we ended up living with Sarah temporarily. But from the first day, she had a nasty attitude toward me.
Catherine, it's been a while. I haven't seen you in so long I almost forgot your face. You've aged, haven't you?
Nice to see you again. I've been busy with work and haven't had time to visit. I can't believe she's acting like this when she's going to be living in my house.
Mom, don't say things like that. Here, you can use this room.
I was also angry at Bob for laughing it off.
This house is amazing. Once you live here, you can't go back to other places. Catherine, are you doing some dangerous work or something?
Her crude laughter echoed. If I don't find her a place soon, my sanity won't hold up. Make sure to find a place quickly and ask her to move out.
Don't say things like that on the first day.
I whispered to Bob, who looked annoyed. Living with Sarah, who doesn't even say thank you or nice to see you, is going to be tough. Bob probably won't side with me. As expected, living with Sarah was truly challenging. Dinner is ready. Please help yourself.
Oh, how fancy. It doesn't look very tasty though.
I'm sorry. I hope it suits your taste.
It seems a bit off.
Sarah would criticize my cooking but still ask for seconds. Moreover, when I was cleaning, she would yell at me.
Hey, I can't hear the TV. Are you doing this on purpose to annoy me?
I'm sorry. I have to clean now because I have to go to work soon.
Can't you do it after you get back? Are you hinting that you want me to leave?
She would yell and boss me around no matter what I did. I was so stressed that I asked Bob to do something about Sarah's attitude.
Mom is hurt from the divorce. Let her have her way a little.
There was no way she seemed hurt at all. But Sarah just watches TV all day and doesn't help with anything.
Mom is a guest. She doesn't have to do housework.
Bob always sided with Sarah, but he didn't take care of her and still came home late just like before, which made me angry. His current salary was only half of what he used to make, around $20,000 a year. Despite this, he spent his nights drinking and didn't help with the housework. Bob, you need to help with the housework. It's harder with an extra person, and I'm busy with work too.
I'm busy with work as well. I'm working hard as the breadwinner.
Breadwinner? How is Bob the breadwinner when he still doesn't contribute to the living expenses? Then hurry up and find Sarah a place to live. I'm at my limit.
Well, but Mom seems to be enjoying living here, so let's let her stay a bit longer.
No way. If that's the case, you need to help out more.
What? What else do you want me to do?
I was too exasperated to respond. I couldn't see a future with Bob anymore, and the thought of divorce filled my mind. Time kept passing, and Sarah's attitude got even worse. The promised 3 months had long passed, but she showed no signs of finding her own place.
Catherine, I'm going out tomorrow, so give me some money.
No, please ask Bob for it.
Bob is working hard with his small salary. I can't take money from him.
I'm working hard too.
All you do is make excuses.
It's not an excuse, and you need to find your own place soon. We agreed on 3 months, didn't we?
We never made that agreement. Can't you take care of your mother-in-law? Hand over your wallet.
Sarah forcibly took my wallet and took $100. I told Bob about it when he came home late that night.
$100 is nothing to you, Catherine. Just do something nice for my mom.
Do something nice with your own money.
I told you, I don't have any money.
That's because you spend it all on drinking. Come home without drinking.
If I build these relationships, it'll help with my future job, right?
Bob always says this. It's not even business entertainment, just part-time co-workers drinking together. How is that supposed to help his future? When is it going to help? I don't think it ever will. When I said that, Bob sulked. He scratched his head irritably.
Anyway, take care of my mom.
With that, Bob escaped to his room. I realized it was pointless to say anything to him. Then Sarah started stealing money from my wallet when I wasn't looking. Since confronting her only led to yelling, I began noting down the contents of my wallet when I got home, keeping track of when and how much money was taken. I wanted proof, so I set up a video camera to record the room and caught Sarah stealing money from my wallet on tape. The reason I couldn't bring myself to divorce Bob despite everything was that I didn't want to worry my mother.
Be happy with Bob.
I didn't want to betray the words my mother told me when I got married, so I felt I had to avoid divorce at all costs. But living my life as their ATM was something I couldn't bear, and I didn't know what to do or who to turn to for help. Still, the housework kept piling up, and I was the only one doing it, holding back tears as I worked. One day, when I reached into Bob's pants pocket while doing the laundry, I found a photo. It was of Bob and Emily with I love you written on it. So they really were having an affair. I quickly took a picture of it and put the pants back without washing them. The next day, when I checked the pants, the photo was gone. He doesn't help with anything, doesn't address the issues with Sarah, and now he's cheating. I don't need a man like this in my life. The thread holding me together snapped, and I resolved to get a divorce. That day, I finished work early and went straight to a detective agency. My husband, Bob, is having an affair, but I don't have much evidence. Can you investigate?
Sure. It'll take about a week. Is that okay?
I was worried if they could gather evidence in just a week, but about 5 days later, I received a call from the agency and rushed over.
Bob is indeed cheating. Here are the photos.
A lot of photos were spread out on the desk. They showed Bob and Emily walking arm in arm, going to Emily's house, and even holding hands on the street.
Do you know this person?
Yes, that's Emily, a friend of Bob's. She's been to our house once. I found a photo of them together in Bob's pants pocket.
I see. Since we could take this many photos in just 5 days, it seems he's visiting her frequently.
I took the evidence to a lawyer and started the process of getting a divorce. That night, I called my mom. Hello, Mom. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm so happy you called. How are you, Catherine?
Hearing her voice, I started to cry.
Catherine, are you okay? Did something happen?
I want to get a divorce. I'm sorry I couldn't be happy. Crying, I told my mom everything that had happened. She listened without interrupting and stayed with me until the end.
You don't need to stay with someone who doesn't value you. It's okay to leave and find happiness afterward. You don't need to apologize.
Thank you, Mom. She kept talking to me on the phone until I stopped crying, and listening to her voice, I realized that she was the only family I needed. A few days later, I was sleeping in my room when I woke up to the sound of Sarah and Bob talking. Sarah's voice was loud, so I could hear everything.
Hurry up and get Catherine out of here.
I know. I think Emily will love living here.
I quickly turned on my phone's voice recorder.
The mortgage is paid off, right? Just get Catherine out and let Emily move in. Bob, make sure your name is on the deed.
Oh, I can just change it without her knowing.
Change the name on the deed? I don't know what they're planning, but I need to gather all the house documents quickly.
Emily is much nicer than that arrogant Catherine. Bring her over next time.
Got it. Once we get divorced, I'll get half of Catherine's money and we'll be rich.
Exactly. Just get all her stuff out of the house.
That sounds like a plan.
Their voices were loud and clear, and I got everything recorded. I was determined not to let them take my house or money. The next day, I consulted my lawyer again and came up with a plan. They'll have to pay for betraying and using me all this time. From then on, I continued to act as if everything was normal so they wouldn't suspect my plans. I pretended that Bob's affair and Sarah's abusive words didn't bother me. I endured it all with the thought that I would never forgive them. A few days later, their plan to kick me out was put into action. My belongings were piled up in the entrance. Today is the day, right? I deliberately pretended to be surprised and raised my voice. Of course, I had my voice recorder on. Hey, Bob, what is this?
You're finally back. We packed your stuff for you.
Sarah, what is going on?
It means get out of here. You don't have a room here anymore. Starting tomorrow, this will be Emily's room. Unlike you, Emily is charming and cute, the perfect wife for Bob. We don't need you.
Isn't it strange for me to leave?
Shut up. You're always talking back. That's why Bob is fed up with you.
Sarah shouted with a scary face. When I looked toward the back of the room for Bob, he approached me with a pleased look on his face.
Surprised? It's your fault. Here, take the divorce papers.
This was exactly what I wanted. Really, that's perfect because I want a divorce too. But this house is mine, you know?
When you get divorced, it's normal for the wife to leave. Don't you even know that?
So, neither of you are leaving. Understood. For now, I'll leave today.
Not just today. Leave forever.
To make sure they hit rock bottom, I packed my things and left. That night, I stayed at a business hotel and filled out the divorce papers, submitting them first thing in the morning. Then I went straight to my lawyer. I finally submitted the divorce papers. Please send the invoices for the alimony.
They're already prepared.
My lawyer sent an invoice of $20,000 to Bob and $20,000 to Emily, and we also decided to demand $5,000 from Sarah as compensation for the money she had stolen. I then went to a real estate agent and signed the sales contract for the apartment. A few days later, I got a call from Bob.
What the hell is this? Why do I have to pay alimony? And what's this about eviction?
I found plenty of evidence of your affair, so you owe me alimony. And since the divorce is finalized, I sold the apartment because I don't need it anymore. The real estate agent wants to clean it up and sell it quickly, so you need to move out. I had a real estate agent I knew show the apartment and put it up for sale while Bob and Sarah were out. Of course, it was priced lower than the market rate due to the circumstances, but I didn't care. I had considered keeping the apartment, but the thought of living with it stayed made me sick, so I decided to sell it and kick them out.
What are you talking? You can't sell it without my permission, and I didn't cheat.
Don't make me laugh. That apartment was bought with my money and is under my name from before we got married, so I have every right to sell it. As I spoke, I sent the affair photos to Bob's messaging app one by one.
What is this? I'll apologize for the affair, but please, spare the house.
Spare the house? It's my house, and you didn't even contribute to the living expenses. You even cheated on me. You have no right to live there. Then I received a message from Bob. It was a photo of the house deed with Bob's name handwritten on the ownership section.
Look, my name is on it too.
Did you write that by hand? Do you seriously think that would work?
But when I asked them to change the name, they said I couldn't do it without you. I thought this might work.
I was astonished by Bob's ignorance. If you think that's going to work, why don't you ask a lawyer? By the way, that's a fake deed I made on my computer. After hearing you talk, I left it there on purpose.
What the hell? You tricked me. Where are we supposed to live now?
That's not my problem. Maybe a hotel or a cheap apartment? Then I could hear Sarah yelling in the background.
My mom is old. Don't you feel sorry for her?
If she can yell that much, it means she's healthy. Have her get a job somewhere.
What a woman.
Better than a man who doesn't pay for anything, cheats, and tries to steal my house. Now, pay the alimony quickly. Or should we settle this in court?
I don't have money for a court case. Please, at least lower the alimony.
Bob's voice sounded like he was about to cry. The alimony is standard, so don't worry. But I need it all at once. If that's not possible, let's take it to court. I'll win though.
No way.
I heard Bob's weak voice, but I felt no sympathy.
Don't be ridiculous.
Suddenly, Sarah took the phone. Oh, it's good to hear you're doing well. Please return all the money you stole from my wallet. I have footage of you stealing it.
The money and the apartment are mine. You really are an insolent woman.
Yes, I'm insolent, and I will never forgive you. From now on, contact me through my lawyer. Even though they called me repeatedly after that, I ignored all their calls. When it got too persistent, I had my lawyer give them a warning call, and the calls stopped immediately. I successfully divorced Bob and sold the apartment. Later, the real estate agent contacted me because they wouldn't vacate the apartment, so I hired movers to retrieve my belongings and headed over there. I unlocked the door and entered with the movers.
Catherine, what are you doing here?
That's my TV.
Ignoring Bob and Sarah, I began the moving process, one item after another.
Stop it.
Then Emily approached me.
Catherine, please stop. I want to be happy here with Bob.
I see, but this is my house, and I've already sold it. You have no right to live here, so please leave. You can live together if you buy them this house. I said this and packed all my belongings into the truck. Emily seemed shocked to learn that the apartment was mine. You have 1 week to move out. After that, the real estate agent will remove the rest of your things and change the locks. So I suggest you leave soon. I closed the door and took a deep breath. It's finally over. A wave of accomplishment and exhaustion hit me. I moved to a distant place to ensure I would never see Bob and Sarah again. Later, I heard that they quickly found an apartment and moved out. I gave them a week's grace period, which was more than enough since I could have had them forcibly evicted. They should be grateful. Emily, thinking she could live in the high-rise apartment, immediately broke up with Bob when she found out she couldn't. Bob paid the alimony immediately after the divorce, but Emily never got to live in the high-rise apartment, so she searched for me, claiming I had been deceived and demanding my money back, but she couldn't find me. In the end, she resorted to threatening Bob, which led to her being reported to the police. Additionally, Emily was already disliked by her friends for flirting with their boyfriends. When rumors of the affair spread, she lost all her friends. Her company also found out about the affair and the threats, and she was asked to resign. Later, Bob and I had a meeting about the division of property with our lawyer present.
I won't agree to the divorce without dividing the property.
Oh, did you forget about this paper? I took out the notarized document that outlined the division of property at the time of our divorce.
Oh,
We agreed before marriage not to divide the property, right? Instead, we were supposed to save $200 a month together and split it in case of divorce. But you stopped contributing, so I stopped too. You can only divide half of the $4,800 we saved for a year. Bob looked to our lawyer for help.
This is a notarized document, so dividing the money in Catherine's account isn't possible.
Bob looked dejected upon hearing this. Despite all the discussions we had, he seemed to have conveniently forgotten. Maybe he was having so much fun with the affair that it slipped his mind. He then asked if I could reduce the alimony, but I refused as there was no reason to do so. In the end, the small amount of property division wasn't enough to cover the alimony, and Bob had to take on debt. Moreover, Sarah was also sued for alimony by her ex-husband, Bob's father. Bob and Sarah ended up living together, blaming each other for their situation, and both working from morning till night. I ended up living with my mother in a house, and I was hired as a cosmetic surgeon again. My mother is enjoying her retirement, occasionally going on trips and having a good time. I'm not sure if I'm being a good daughter, but seeing my mother's happy face makes me feel happy. I don't know if I'll get married in the future, but even if I don't, I'm determined to live a life that I can feel happy about. I was pregnant and felt bloated, so I was resting alone while my relatives gathered.
Hey, you. Why are you resting? The glass is empty.
The next moment, something happened. A cold liquid was suddenly poured on my face. Immediately, the smell of beer hit my nose. My husband, Kent, had poured beer on me.
Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can slack off, huh? Keep an eye on things and move.
In that moment, I heard something snap in my head. So that's how it's going to be. Well, I'm not going to stay quiet anymore. I smiled sweetly. Okay, I'll tell Lauren too. She's your wife too, right?
What?
Blowing my brother's voice, Kent also said, "What?" I walked over to my sister-in-law, Lauren, and said, "Lauren, he says wives shouldn't rest and should keep an eye on things. Let's work together." After that, my furious brother turned the place into a scene of chaos. My name is Sarah Olson. I'm a 30-year-old working housewife. I was born as the second child of the Johnson family. My family consists of my parents and my brother, Mike, who is 3 years older than me. From a young age, my parents didn't get along very well. The reason was my dad's womanizing. Apparently, my dad frequented nightclubs and repeatedly cheated and squandered money. And it wasn't just once or twice that I saw my parents arguing. Eventually, when I was in elementary school, my parents got divorced. My brother and I were taken in by our mom. We had to move and change schools. In my anxiety, my big brother, Mike, told me,
Sarah, from now on, I'll be your dad figure. I'll definitely protect you. You can rely on me for anything.
"Thank you, Mike." At that time, Mike was still in upper elementary school. He must have been anxious too, but he still said those words to me, and I respect him for that even now. After that, the three of us, my mom, Mike, and I lived together. We both used scholarship programs to go to college, and Mike joined a major construction company. I also started working for the cosmetics company that I wanted. However, soon after I started working, our mom fell ill. By the time she was hospitalized, it was too late, and a few months later, she passed away. At her funeral, as I was crying, Mike said to me,
From now on, it's just the two of us supporting each other. Sarah, you have me. It's going to be okay.
I carried those words like a talisman through my 20s. Mike and I lived separately, but we would meet up for meals and to catch up. He was always the reliable and proud brother I could count on. In my late 20s, I attended a mixer with friends and had a fateful encounter.
Nice to meet you. I'm Kent Olson. You mentioned in your introduction that you like watching movies, right? Me too.
One of the male participants, Kent, spoke to me. After that, we hit it off over our shared interest in movies and exchanged contact information. Kent pursued me eagerly after that. I didn't mind, and eventually we started dating. He worked at a company that his parents owned, dealing in construction materials.
I'm planning to take over my parents' company while I'm still young. You might be lucky to date someone as promising as me.
I remember Kent joking like that when we were dating. Anyway, Kent and I dated for nearly 2 years without any major issues. I liked his manly and cheerful personality, and I started thinking about a future with him. On my birthday during the second year of our relationship, Kent made a reservation at a fancier restaurant than usual, and near the end of the meal, he presented me with a ring and said,
Sarah, will you marry me? Let's be happy together.
I happily accepted the ring and said tearfully, "Thank you, Kent. I'm so happy." I gazed at the ring in delight. At that moment, I was on top of the world. After that, we decided to visit each other's families to announce our engagement. Kent's parents had divorced long ago, and I heard only his dad, Ken, who was the president of the company, lived at his family home. When I first met Ken, he was a stout man with a commanding presence. When Ken introduced me and told Ken we were getting married, Ken said,
Well, you want to get married? Okay, I accept your marriage.
I felt relieved and let out a sigh of relief. Then Ken continued,
Sarah, right? After you get married, quit your job and join our company. I'll put you to work as an office clerk.
"What?" I was shocked by Ken's words. I had planned to continue working at the cosmetics company where I felt fulfilled. "Excuse me, Ken. I find my current job very rewarding. I plan to continue working there after getting married." Then Ken frowned.
Hey, my dad is offering you a position.
"But you know how much I love my job." Listening to our conversation, Ken said,
All right, fine. I understand you don't want to work at our company. Do as you please.
Ken then seemed a bit displeased, and I felt awkward. A week later, it was time to introduce Kent to Mike. Mike also supported our marriage, which made me happy, but Kent said something unexpected.
So, Mike, I hear you work at that big construction company. Which college did you attend?
I went to Georgia Institute of Technology.
Kent was proud of having graduated from a fairly well-known private university. However, the state university Mike attended had higher prestige and academic ranking than Kent's university. Kent's face twisted.
Oh, Georgia Institute of Technology? You went to the state university because you were financially struggling, right?
What?
Well, you were raised by a single mom, right? Must have been tough. As for me, my parents paid for everything, so I went to a private university.
I was stunned by Kent's words.
Well, it wouldn't be true if I said we didn't struggle.
Hearing this, Kent looked a bit pleased. At the end of our first meeting, Mike said to Kent,
Kent, Sarah is my precious sister and my only family. Please make her happy.
I remember Kent replying, "Leave it to me." After that, Kent and I got married. We had a typical wedding, inviting Kent's relatives and my friends, and started living in an apartment near his family home. I thought my sweet life with Kent was about to begin. But soon I hit a wall. Kent didn't do any housework at all. Not only did he not help with cleaning, laundry, or cooking, but he also didn't clear his dishes, left his clothes lying around, and didn't throw away his trash. I found out that Kent, who had lived with his dad, Ken, until now, had always had a housekeeper doing everything for him. "Ken, this isn't your parents' house. I work too, and I need you to help with the housework a little." I told him seriously, but it didn't seem to reach him.
What? We're married now, and housework is a wife's job.
That's such an outdated way of thinking. Anyway, you need to learn to do some housework.
No way. I'm busy working every day as the future president. I'm not going to work at home, too.
When we were dating, he was kind and considerate. Maybe it's true what they say about not feeding the fish after catching it. Even after that, Kent didn't do any housework, and my burden only increased. About a year after we got married, I received a message from Mike saying he wanted to introduce me to his fiance. I was surprised because I didn't even know he was seeing someone. Anyway, it was definitely good news. On the appointed day, Kent and I went to the fancy restaurant Mike had booked.
Sarah, this is Lauren, my fiancée. I'm planning to marry her.
Then the woman next to Mike smiled at us. She was so cute and well groomed that even I, as a woman, was momentarily taken aback.
Nice to meet you. I'm Lauren Davis.
When I looked at Kent next to me, he seemed to be captivated by Lauren as well. I heard that Mike and Lauren had met at a marriage matchmaking party.
Is Sarah still working after marriage?
Before I could answer, Kent replied,
That's right. When we got married, my dad offered her a job at his company, but she's so stubborn. She still works at a cosmetics company.
Wow, Kent, your family runs a company. That's amazing.
Well, yeah. I'm the next president, you know.
I quickly interrupted their conversation. Lauren, what do you do for work?
I used to work as a receptionist at a department store, but I plan to quit and become a full-time housewife after getting married.
Certainly, with Mike's income, there would be no need for both to work. I hoped Lauren would support my busy brother. That day, I said to Lauren, please take care of my brother, and we wrapped up the meeting. On the way home, Kent cheerfully said,
Wow, Lauren was cute, right? That's what you call a beauty.
yes, she and Mike seemed very well matched. For some reason, Kent then looked sullen and didn't talk much afterward. I found it strange, but didn't think much of it at the time. Mike and Lauren got married and started living about an hour's drive from us. Some time passed. When I continued to feel unwell and went to the hospital, I found out I was pregnant. I happily reported it to Kent, but he only responded with, "Oh, really?" Feeling let down by his reaction, I said, "We're having a baby. I thought you'd be happier."
Yeah, well, I guess it's good news.
Then he immediately looked back at his phone. Despite feeling dissatisfied with his attitude, I reported my pregnancy to Mike, who was overjoyed.
Sarah, that's wonderful. Take good care of yourself.
I was happier that Mike was more excited than Kent. Soon after, my morning sickness began. However, instead of showing concern, Kent started being away from home more often. Kent, you've been coming home late lately. You even come back drunk sometimes. What have you been doing?
It's work. As the future president, I have to attend business meetings and social events. I'm busy.
Kent always said things like that. If a normal husband knew his wife was suffering from morning sickness, he would take care of her and bring her food she could eat. But Kent never did that. Moreover, one day when he came home early, this happened.
Hey, I'm home. What's for dinner?
That day, my morning sickness was particularly bad, and I had been bedridden since morning. I'm sorry. The morning sickness was too much today, and I couldn't cook. Could you buy something or eat the frozen food in the freezer? Kent flew into a rage.
You want me to eat frozen food after a hard day's work? What kind of wife are you?
I told you my morning sickness is bad.
I don't care. Get up and make dinner now. I won't tolerate any slacking.
He pulled my arm and forced me to stand up. In the end, I had to cook Kent's dinner while holding back my nausea. After that, Kent continued to come home late and go out even on weekends. One day, when Kent came home drunk, I smelled women's perfume on him, a sweet scent I had smelled somewhere before. I decided to secretly investigate Kent. I knew it was not uncommon for husbands to cheat while their wives were pregnant. Hoping it was just a misunderstanding, I contacted a detective agency. When I was 5 months pregnant and found out we were having a boy, Kent said to me,
Hey, we're going to church.
"Oh, right. We need to get ready."
My dad said he's coming too, so you should invite Mike and Lauren too.
I was surprised because I thought it was just the two of us going to church. However, I reconsidered that it might be nice to go with a family.
After church, there's a family gathering.
Really?
The baby is a boy, and he's going to be the heir to our company. So we're going to announce the pregnancy and the gender to the family. Dad has already gathered everyone.
I reluctantly nodded. I felt heavy-hearted, but I convinced myself that it was my duty as a married woman.
You should invite Mike and Lauren too.
Even though it's your family's gathering, is it okay to invite Mike?
Sure, why not? It's just a meal.
So I told Mike that I wanted him to come to church with us and then join Kent's family's gathering afterward. Mike asked, "Is it okay if Lauren comes too?" And I nodded. Of course, Lauren is our family now. I'd be happy if she came. We made arrangements for the day we would go to church. The day before the service, I received an envelope. When I looked inside, I gasped. No way, this can't be happening. The day of the service arrived. From the morning, Kent, Ken, Mike, Lauren, and I all headed to the church. Because of the secret I was carrying, I felt uneasy, but I went through the service. After the service, Ken said,
Let's head to our place. Mike, you and Lauren are welcome to join us.
Thank you for inviting us.
So we took a taxi to Kent's family home. After a while, the relatives started to arrive, congratulating me on the pregnancy. Many of Kent's relatives worked at Ken's company and were mostly sensible and kind. I was busy serving them beer and setting up the catered food on the table.
Is it okay for you to move around so much with your big belly? Should I help you?
Mike asked me with his concern, but I smiled and said, "I'm fine." Soon, with Ken's toast, the family meal began. Kent was happily drinking the beer poured by his relatives. Mike and Lauren were in a corner talking and eating. I was about to go around saying hello to Kent's relatives, but at that moment my stomach became very bloated. Ouch, ouch. Whether it was the stress or the recent busy activity, my belly hurt. In such times, resting usually helped, so I sat down, rubbing my belly and trying to relax. Then Kent said to me,
Hey, what are you resting for? The glasses are empty.
and then, in the next moment, a cold liquid was suddenly poured on my face. Immediately, the smell of beer hit my nose. Ken had poured beer on me.
Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can slack off. Keep an eye on things and move around.
In that moment, I heard something snap in my head. So that's how it's going to be. Well, I'm not staying quiet anymore. Before I knew it, everyone in the family was watching us. Smiling sweetly, I said, Okay, I'll tell Lauren too. She's your wife too, right? Ha ha.
What?
Following Mike's voice, Kent also said, "What?" The relatives around us seemed confused, not understanding what was going on. I walked briskly to where Mike and Lauren were sitting. I stood in front of Lauren. "Lauren, he says wives shouldn't rest and should keep an eye on things. Let's work together." Lauren looked at me with a blank expression. Mike had the same look.
Hey, Sarah. What are you talking about? Lauren is Kent's wife. This doesn't make any sense.
Mike seemed genuinely bewildered. At that moment, Kent hurried over.
Mike and Lauren, I'm sorry. It seems she's confused. They say pregnancy can make you emotional, but maybe it's making her crazy.
Kent grabbed my arm, but I shook him off. "Maybe you're the one who's lost it. This woman is your wife, right? She should be helping out. Come on, Lauren, get up." I glared at Lauren as I spoke, and she said,
Wait, Mike, your sister is acting strange. She's saying things that don't make any sense. It's insulting.
Lauren moved closer to Mike, but Mike looked at my face and muttered,
Sarah, you're serious, aren't you? Tell me what's going on.
"Recently, Ken has been coming home late. One day, I smelled women's perfume on him. It was the same scent you're wearing, Lauren." It made perfect sense why the scent seemed familiar. It was the same perfume Lauren wore on the day we first met. Then Lauren burst out laughing.
How ridiculous, haha. You suspected Kent and me over just that. This perfume is sold everywhere.
Kent joined in.
That's right, Sarah. It's disrespectful to Lauren, and all the relatives are watching. Just stop it already.
He grabbed my arm and tried to take me back to my seat. "You know, I have proof."
What?
I went to get my bag and took out a brown envelope. I spilled its contents in front of Mike and Lauren. It was a bunch of photos. Photos of Kent and Lauren having meals together, getting close, and leaving a motel arm in arm.
What is this?
I watched Lauren's face turn pale as I spoke. "Did you think I was accusing you based only on the smell of perfume? I hired a proper detective agency to investigate Kent. I didn't expect you to be the other woman, Lauren." Lauren's mouth opened and closed without a sound, so I continued. "The investigation report also included your conversations. Kent, you said, 'Lauren is my wife,' and Lauren, you were happy about it. So Lauren, you are his wife, right? Am I saying something wrong?" Kent was crawling around, trying to gather the scattered photos. But Mike was staring at the photo he picked up, the one of Kent and Lauren leaving the motel. "I received these results yesterday. At first, I wanted to stay quiet to avoid hurting you, Mike, and I hoped to break them up quietly. But when Kent poured beer on me and said those awful things, I couldn't forgive him. I'm sorry, Mike." I finally broke down and started crying on the spot. Of course, I couldn't forgive Kent and Lauren, but what hurt the most was deeply wounding my brother, who knew nothing about it. Then Mike stood up and put his hand on my head.
Sarah, that must have been tough. Thank you for telling me.
His voice was gentle, and I started crying even more. Mike then looked directly at Lauren and Kent.
So, what's going on? Lauren, were you seeing him while I was away for work?
Lauren looked panicked.
No, Mike, it's a misunderstanding.
What misunderstanding? These photos look real enough. Explain it properly.
Well, just before Sarah got pregnant, I ran into Kent outside. He asked for my contact information, and we ended up going out for drinks.
and then you cheated.
Kent and Lauren were pale and silent. Kent, what the hell were you thinking? Having an affair with your wife's sister-in-law? When I accused Kent, he turned his face away awkwardly.
Well, Lauren is prettier and cuter than you. She doesn't nag me about housework all the time like you do.
What?
It's only natural for me to be attracted to her. You're not even that pretty. Besides, I don't have any love left for you.
I felt my face flush with anger. How can you say such things to your pregnant wife? Do you have any sense of responsibility as a father and husband? You're being completely irresponsible. A moment of silence followed, but Kent and Lauren glared at me. Then Kent let out a big sigh.
All right, enough. This is such a hassle. So, what do you want by exposing all this in front of the family?
What?
Divorce? Fine by me. I don't care about the baby either, so let's get divorced.
You're just going to shrug it off. When I said that, Kent laughed scornfully and looked at Mike.
So, Mike, I'll be taking Lauren then.
Son of a bitch.
Kent pulled Lauren close in front of me and Mike.
Hey, Lauren, how about it? You really become my wife.
At first, Lauren looked surprised, but then she smirked.
Yeah, I don't mind divorcing either, haha.
Lauren, are you serious?
Yes, I am. Well, even though you work for a big company, you're still just an employee. Kent, who will be a president someday, might be more suitable for me.
While Mike and I stood in shock, Ken, who had been watching everything, spoke up.
That sounds good. I also think you're better suited for Kent than this plain girl with no parents.
I looked at Ken in shock. He was glaring at me with a hateful expression.
You didn't take the job that I offered, and you're a poor excuse for a wife. Besides, as Kent said, Lauren is prettier. Kent and Lauren make a great couple. They should get married soon.
Then Lauren said, "Thank you very much," in a sing-song voice. I felt dizzy. Like father, like son. Kent grinned at Ken's words.
With Dad's approval, that settles it. We're getting divorced. Mike and Lauren too. Then Lauren and I will get married and have our happy ending.
I was speechless, and Kent turned to Mike.
Sorry for stealing your wife. I may not have your education, but it seems I'm the better man, haha.
Kent wrapped his arm around Lauren's shoulders, and she leaned into him with a smug smile. To me, they looked like demons. When I looked at Mike, he was trembling, his head down, face hidden. Mike. He slowly raised his head and looked at Lauren.
Lauren, I understand your decision. Knowing you cheated, we can't stay together. We're getting divorced.
I already said that. I don't care about you anymore.
Ken, you've insulted my precious sister Sarah quite a bit. I can't let that go. If you think everything will go smoothly now, you're mistaken.
Ken's eyes widened at Mike's words, but then he smirked.
What can a youngster like you do? As her brother, just take your loser sister and get out.
Mike looked directly at Ken one last time.
You had an affair with my wife and betrayed my sister and her unborn child. You will pay for this.
What can you do, ha ha ha? It's humiliating to have your wife taken, so stop boasting. It's pathetic.
Then Kent, Ken, and Lauren started laughing at us.
Come on, you losers, get out. We're about to celebrate welcoming my new wife.
Mike spoke to me briefly.
Sarah, let's go. We don't need to stay with these people.
That's right. Mike and I had left Kent's family house, leaving behind a buzzing Kent's relatives. As we walked side by side, Mike spoke to me.
Sarah, is your belly okay? Are you feeling all right?
I said, "Yeah, I'm good." But then I started crying again. I'm so frustrated. I'm so angry. He smiled warmly at me.
This isn't over. We'll make them pay and drag them down to hell.
I knew it. Despite his smile, Mike was seething with rage inside. We went into a diner at his suggestion. "Order anything you like," Mike said as I was choosing from the menu. He then left the table. It seemed like he was on a phone call with someone. When he returned, he smiled at me.
Now, the real show begins.
I didn't understand what he meant, so I just started eating the food that had been brought to us. A few minutes later, my phone started ringing loudly. The caller was Kent. Mike told me to ignore it, so I did, but it kept ringing over and over. Eventually, Mike took my phone and answered it. After ending the call, he said to me,
Sarah, we're going back to his house.
"Really? But, Mike."
It's fine. Just come with me.
We returned to Ken's house together. What greeted us was utter chaos. Shouts were flying around, and I could hear someone screaming in panic. When Mike and I arrived, everyone turned their attention to us. Kent shouted,
Hey, our biggest client just said they're stopping all business with us. They mentioned your name. What's going on here?
I looked at Mike, and he was smiling.
The big client? You mean Smith Industries?
Yes. Did you have a connection there?
Mike nodded.
A friend from my university works at Smith Industries. When we talked recently, he mentioned he was in the procurement department and that they were doing business with Ken's company.
Ken looked at Mike in shock.
But my friend said he wanted to stop doing business with Ken's company because the work was shoddy. I convinced him to continue because it was my sister's in-laws.
No way you.
Yes. I explained everything that led to the divorce and told him not to hold back. So, he must have immediately called to terminate the contract.
One of the relatives who worked at Ken's company muttered,
If we lose the deal with Smith Industries, we won't survive. What do we do?
The relatives working at Ken's company started to panic. Ken turned pale and held his head in his hands.
Everyone, I have connections with a friend who is starting a materials company nearby. If you cut ties with Ken and Kent, I can get you jobs there.
As Mike said this, the relatives exchanged glances and began gathering around him and saying things like, "We'll cut ties with them. They're terrible people."
Hey, you're all going to abandon us and go to another company?
One of the relatives replied to Ken,
We've had enough of your tyrannical management. Without the Smith Industries deal, we're sinking. We owe you nothing. Besides, during that whole commotion, you two insulted these people completely. The real scum here are you and your son. Who would follow such a person as the next president?
Ken was now trembling, unable to say anything.
Hey, Dad. What's going to happen to the company if we lose the Smith Industries deal and all the employees leave?
Kent shook Ken's shoulder, panicking. I smiled and said, "The company will probably go under, right? Even if it survives, it won't be like before."
Damn it. If your brother hadn't interfered.
Kent, with a furious expression, reached out towards me. I instinctively protected my belly and tried to dodge, just as Kent was about to throw a punch. Mike grabbed him by the collar and threw him down with a perfect judo throw. With a loud thud, Kent lay on his back, staring at the ceiling.
It's self-defense, so don't take it personally.
Mike said, dusting off his hands. He had practiced judo for many years. I wanted to applaud the clean throw, and at the same time, I felt a sense of relief. Ouch! Kent could only groan, unable to speak, while Lauren screamed hysterically.
What? The company is going under. You said you were going to be the next president. This isn't what I signed up for.
Kent still couldn't respond, only gasping like a fish. Lauren then clung to Mike's arm.
Mike, I was wrong. It's you I really love. It was just a moment of weakness earlier. I'm coming back to you. We won't get divorced, right?
Mike shook off Lauren's arm.
Don't touch me. You're disgusting. Expect a call from my lawyer about the alimony.
No. This isn't how it was supposed to be.
Lauren screamed, collapsing to the floor and crying into her hands.
Come on, Sarah. Let's go home.
Mike said, looking at me, and I nodded. As we were about to leave, I felt someone grab my ankle. Looking down, I saw that Kent still couldn't get up.
Sarah, I'm sorry. Please, let's start over. What will I do if I lose the family business? You work at a big company. You can take care of me.
No way.
I'll take good care of the baby too. So let's be a family again. Please, Sarah, forgive me.
At that moment, I shouted at the top of my lungs. Don't be ridiculous. We're getting divorced. I'll be claiming alimony and child support, so you better pay up. I never want to see you again, you worthless man. Kent screamed and tried to chase after me, but the relatives held him back. And this time, Mike and I left there. Afterward, both Mike and Lauren and Kent and I finalized our divorces. Mike claimed alimony from Lauren, who, having no savings, had her parents pay for it. Lauren's parents, who were strict, took her back to their rural home, where she worked under their watch to repay the money. Of course, I also claimed alimony from Lauren. As for Ken's company, after losing the contract with Smith Industries and the mass resignation of employees, it went bankrupt. It turned out Ken's company wasn't doing well financially, and there was little left. Ken was cut off by his relatives, lost his company, and now lives as a recluse. As for Kent, I claimed alimony and child support from him as well. Kent paid alimony with his meager savings and agreed to pay $700 a month in child support. Paying me left him broke, and then Mike claimed alimony from him too. Unable to pay it all, Kent went into debt. He has since found a new job, but between child support and debt repayment, he has little left and now lives at his family's home to care for Ken. I no longer have any feelings for Ken. As for me, I moved to live near Mike and gave birth a few months later. Mike was as happy about the baby's arrival as if it were his own, and I asked him to be the godfather. I am now working hard and raising my child. Mike dotes on my child and helps us a lot. From now on, I want to cherish my loving family and live positively.
You know, I wasn't going to say anything, but I had an affair with your fiance, my sister blurted out.
Her statement was so outlandish. I couldn't understand what she was talking about. What? What do you mean? I'm not quite following you here.
How can you not understand? We're adults, aren't we? Basically, I've been intimate with him. And now I'm pregnant with his child. Do you get what that means?
Everyone was left speechless by my sister's revelation. But she continued, undeterred.
So unfortunately, Julia, you're not needed anymore. He is going to be my husband now.
I burst out laughing.
What's so funny? I'm pregnant with his child. So I want him to be my husband now.
You really don't get it, do you? My name is Julia Johnson, 28 years old. I have a sister named Lily. She's 4 years younger than me and has been the center of our parents' affection since she was little. Yes, Lily grew up monopolizing our parents' love. Ever since I was young, my parents have always doted on her and paid little attention to me. I never understood why, but it was clear that there was a significant disparity in affection between us. For instance, I barely remember my own birthdays being celebrated. When I brought this up to my parents, they would accuse me of being ungrateful, saying, "We doted on you so much before Lily was born." However, Lily got expensive birthday presents and fancy cake every year. I don't remember ever being treated like that. Growing up like this, I increasingly closed off my heart as my parents only seemed to care about Lily. They would say things like, "We can never understand what you're thinking, and if you dislike us so much, just go live your own life." As a result, they didn't support my education beyond university. In contrast, Lily was fully supported through private college, but I had to start working immediately after high school because I had neither a diploma nor qualifications. This meant I couldn't find any decent job. Eventually, I ended up working as a cleaner in a hotel. In a low-paying and challenging environment, working hard every day. It felt like I was thrown into hell. But then, someone came into my life who changed everything. That person was my husband, Jack. I met Jack at the hotel where I worked. It happened one day when I was carrying my cleaning supplies, doing my usual job. What's this? I noticed a luxurious-looking wallet and a fountain pen in the men's restroom stall. The wallet had a logo that even someone as poor as me recognized. The fountain pen, too, was clearly expensive, beautifully made, and solid. I could have found out who owned it by checking inside, but that would have invaded their privacy, so I didn't look and instead took it straight to the hotel's front desk. "Excuse me, I found this in the men's restroom on the first floor. It seems to be lost property." When I handed over the wallet and pen, the front desk staff thanked me and asked me to wait, making a phone call right away. It seemed they had already been contacted by the owner. But what surprised me next was when they said,
"The manager will come right now. He wants to thank you personally."
I never expected that returning a lost item would lead to the manager personally thanking me. I was led into an impressive reception room. Dressed in my cleaning uniform, I felt utterly out of place and miserable. Then the manager appeared. He was impeccably dressed in a fine suit, tall and stylish. With his short, neat hair and a gentle smile, he exuded cleanliness. Moreover, he was young, probably around my age. I was instantly captivated by his charming presence. As soon as he saw me, the manager said, "Are you the one who returned my wallet and fountain pen? Thank you so much. I've been looking for them," and he bowed deeply in gratitude. The wallet and fountain pen I had found belonged to the manager. This encounter led him to take an interest in me, and we started to communicate more frequently. Yes, this manager was Jack, who would later become my husband. Jack was impressed that I had honestly returned the wallet and pen without stealing them. From then on, he would stop by while I was working to say, "Good job. Here, have this," offering drinks and snacks, and sometimes inviting me out for dinner after work. As we interacted, our relationship deepened, and 3 months later, he confessed his feelings to me, and we started dating. Jack, despite being the manager of a luxury hotel, never boasted about his title. He was kind, sincere, and honest. I was drawn to his character and started to think that I wanted to spend my life with him. However, my family was always on my mind. Would they bless our union? Given the past, I had little hope. Nevertheless, I had already told Jack about my upbringing and apologized, saying, "I might make you experience something unpleasant. I'm really sorry." But Jack responded earnestly, "What are you talking about? You've done nothing wrong. There's no need to apologize. I love you, and that will never change, no matter what happens." My days with Jack were genuinely joyful. During a hot summer, we went for a drive and ate shaved ice by the seaside. In autumn, we went camping, admiring the brightly colored trees on the mountains. Time flew by in these happy moments, and soon a year had passed in our relationship.
Can I talk to you about something serious?
Jack suddenly said one day. I had never seen him so solemn and was taken aback. Then, he presented a ring. "Will you marry me?" Overwhelmed with happiness, I cried and nodded vigorously without saying a word. After some time, I decided to introduce Jack to my parents. "Mom, Dad, there's someone I want you to meet. Someone I've committed to spend my future with." But at that moment, I made a significant mistake. When my sister persistently asked about my fiance, I ended up talking about Jack, our meeting, his background, and even his job as a hotel manager. At that time, I thought it wouldn't be a problem since they probably wouldn't meet him. But my sister turned out to be more terrible than I had imagined. Eventually, a meeting between both families was arranged. The venue was a fancy restaurant chosen by Jack. My parents, knowing Jack was a hotel manager, treated me completely differently than usual. They seemed to want to play the part of kind and sensible parents. However, I had already told Jack everything about how my parents had treated me, and his parents knew too. Unaware of this, my parents put on a fake smile. She's always been such a kind and good child. Their act was comical and nauseating, but I played along with a pleasant smile. From an outsider's perspective, it was a distorted scene, but it was all for the sake of our marriage. I was afraid that if my parents showed their true colors, Jack's parents might dislike them. I cautiously made sure that didn't happen. Jack, working as a hotel manager, came from a well-known, respected family in the area. Yet, both he and his family never looked down on me for being a middle school graduate and a hotel cleaner. Despite being belittled and looked down upon by my own family, I was warmly welcomed by someone else's. I remember feeling the irony of my fate. The meeting proceeded in a pleasant atmosphere until it was time to leave. Thank goodness. It looks like everything will end without any issues. Now all that's left is to prepare for the wedding. I sighed in relief. But at that moment, my sister began to say something unbelievable.
Hey, sis, there's something I want to talk to you about.
Her face had the usual condescending look, a smirk on her lips. I knew it couldn't be anything good. We had come this far without any issues. and I desperately didn't want her to say anything unnecessary. I wish she'd save her sarcasm for after we get home. I tried to communicate this with my eyes, but she continued regardless. And what she said next was shocking.
You know, I wasn't going to say anything, but I cheated with Jack.
I couldn't comprehend her statement. It was so outlandish. What? What do you mean? I'm not quite following you here.
How can you not understand? We're all adults here. Basically, I've been intimate with Jack, and now I'm pregnant with his child. Do you get what that means?
Everyone was speechless at my sister's revelation. But she was determined to continue.
So, sadly, Julia, you're not needed anymore. Jack is going to be my husband now.
Then, my parents clapped their hands in joy.
That's wonderful. If our younger daughter is better, of course, we welcome it. She's more charming and intelligent than her unsuccessful older sister.
Jack and his parents seemed unable to hide their surprise at these words. However, Jack and I exchanged glances and chuckled.
Hey, what's so funny?
I couldn't believe her stupidity. I decided to reveal the truth about Jack. You know, you say you're pregnant with Jack's child, but he's physically unable to have children. That's a medically confirmed fact. Indeed, Jack was unable to have children due to a physical condition. Of course, I knew about this beforehand and had accepted it. We had even discussed adopting children after getting married.
I intended to explain this properly myself later, but I never expected it would come out like this. As for my Lily's claim, I obviously have nothing to do with it, so please handle that on your end.
As if he had no interest in the matter. Later, I learned that my sister, envious of Jack's status, had tried to steal him from me. The child in her womb belonged to a completely different man, someone she wasn't even dating. She just wanted to quickly have a child by any means. I took this opportunity to expose all the mistreatment I had endured from my sister and parents. I've been patient until now, but I never thought you'd stoop so low as to try and steal my fiance. You're truly a disgraceful sister. Jack and his parents agreed with me, saying, "Have you ever objectively looked at what you're doing? It's inhumane." My sister and parents, having embarrassed themselves, hastily left the scene. I used this incident to cut ties with my family. I notified them that I would no longer be in contact and changed all my contact information. Jack and his parents supported my decision and, despite my complicated family background, welcomed me into their family. I was deeply grateful for this and vowed to spend the rest of my life repaying my in-laws for their kindness. Jack and I didn't have a ceremony but simply registered our marriage and became husband and wife. Of course, we later adopted a boy and a girl and are now living happily surrounded by our children. As for my sister, she had a falling out with the father of her child. She ended up a single mother, struggling every day.
Having only a high school diploma is a disgrace to the family. Please leave.
At my brother's wedding, his mill suddenly tried to make me leave. Although my brother is a doctor, working at a hospital same as his Phil, I have nothing to do with this. It's just too cruel to try to kick me out over my educational background. Besides, I have a respectable job. There's a reason I didn't go to college. But arguing back in the middle of such a celebratory occasion would only lead to a fight and ruin the mood. When I was about to leave, as she said, someone walked up to her. It was my brother, the groom.
Wait, are you not aware of my sister's profession?
What?
The mill had no idea of the shocking turn of events that was about to unfold. I'm Emily, 33 years old. I'm a freelancer. My job is busy, and not just domestically. I often go abroad for work, as directed by my office. Both my parents passed away from illness 10 years ago, but I have a brother, 7 years my senior, and a doctor. He's my only family. Recently, he contacted me. Hey, it's been a while. What's up? Do you need something?
Well, I've decided to get married.
What? That's great. Congratulations. I thought my brother, who had remained single until 40, would never marry. His happiness is my happiness as well.
I was thinking of waiting until you got married. But I didn't want to keep her waiting.
What are you talking about? If you waited for me, you'd never get married.
Don't say that. Find someone nice and give me peace of mind.
Sure, in due time. My brother's fiance turns out to be the daughter of the head doctor at the hospital where he works. Her name is Melissa. She works at the hospital reception, and they met as colleagues and have been together for a long time.
Speaking of which, Melissa's sister went to the same middle and high school as you.
Really? What a coincidence. Were we classmates?
Yo, you were in the same class at times. Her name is Ashley.
Ashley?
Something wrong?
No, nothing. I'm looking forward to meeting Melissa. The reason I was shaken by the mention of Ashley's name is because there's a backstory to it. Actually, when I was young, I had a serious illness, which led to frequent hospital visits and often missing school. During those times, Ashley was the one who always called me a truant and weakling. My illness was a heart condition, which got worse, and by my senior year of high school, I could hardly attend school. Whenever I could go, Ashley, from another class, would spot me and harshly mock me, saying things like, "Look who decided to show up. Been faking sick to play games. Bet you won't get into any college." I didn't hate school, but I couldn't stand meeting Ashley. To think such an unpleasant person would become my relative. But now that I'm well into my 30s, maybe Ashley has changed. I hope so, at least. Circling back to my illness, I ended up not being able to attend college right away. I had to stay bedridden in the hospital to avoid straining my heart. The only way to save me was a major heart surgery, but it was so risky that no surgeon was willing to undertake it. At that time, my brother, who was pursuing a career in medicine, to help me found a renowned surgeon, known for his expertise in cardiovascular surgery, Dr. Smith. Meeting him turned out to be a life-changing event for me. The surgery was major, but it was successfully performed, and at 19, I finally got a healthy body. Thank you, Dr. Smith. When I said that, Dr. Smith kindly responded, "There must be so many things you couldn't do because of your illness, right? Now, go achieve your dreams." And that has brought me to where I am today. Now, a few days after my brother informed me about his upcoming marriage, he reached out again, asking me to attend a pre-wedding family meeting. The thought of meeting Ashley again didn't excite me much, but I was willing to do it for my brother's sake. Now that our parents are gone, I'm the only family my brother has. On the day of the meeting, I headed to a high-end restaurant in New York. The bride's side included his Mill, Melissa, and Ashley. His Phil, a hospital director, couldn't attend due to sudden work commitments. On the groom's side, it was just my brother and me. My brother and I arrived early at the restaurant and waited anxiously. Have you met your Mill or Ashley before?
My Mill is still an active radiologic technologist, so she's my colleague. She's very accomplished. I'll be meeting Ashley for the first time. She seems to be doing various part-time jobs.
While we were chatting, Melissa, the bride-to-be, showed up.
Sorry for making you wait.
It's okay. We just got here.
Nice to meet you. I'm Emily. I've been looking forward to meeting you.
The pleasure is all mine. I'm Melissa. Sean always talks about you. He's so proud of you. I'm thrilled we could meet.
Melissa is a tall, beautiful woman with a very kind demeanor. She is outgoing and a great conversationalist. I thought she was a perfect match for my brother, who is a bit shy and introverted. We hit it off immediately, over our shared love for foreign TV shows. I was glad we could get along well. Just as I was feeling happy about it, the Mill and Ashley arrived together. The Mill, still working, had a brisk and confident way of speaking.
Nice to meet you, Emily. So, you and Ashley were classmates? I've heard about you.
If it's from Ashley, it probably wasn't anything good, I thought, feeling a bit uneasy.
Emily, it's been a while. How have you been?
It's been a while. I'm completely healthy now. Ashley, now an adult, didn't exhibit the spitefulness she had in high school and seemed more cheerful. I was relieved. Maybe we could get along after all. The restaurant lived up to its high-end reputation. The food was exquisite. The ingredients and seasoning were perfect, and the conversation flowed. My brother and Melissa seemed very much in love after dating for so long. After eating, they went outside to admire the restaurant's view. When my brother and Melissa left, Ashley's demeanor completely changed.
Still lazing around at home as usual. Emily.
What? No, I'm working.
Sure, as if. Considering you didn't even go to college.
It seems people's personalities don't change much, even as adults. At that moment, all the joy I felt earlier vanished. Even so, wanting to clear up the misunderstanding, I tried to explain. The reason I didn't go to college was because of my illness. I'm working now.
Well, probably just playing around half the time, right? Skipping is just your habit.
That's not true. I hoped the Mill, who had been silent until then, would come to my rescue, but she only added insult to injury.
All our family members are college graduates. We welcome Sean, because he went all the way to become a doctor, but you, well.
Are you saying I'm not worthy of being part of the family?
Yes, I am. Because not going to college means you're just a high school graduate, right? There's nothing more shameful than that. And I don't really want to associate with someone who has a habit of skipping.
I've never skipped.
That's what all lazy people say. A doctor brother and a high school graduate sister that tells us all we need to know about what kind of person you are.
That's too harsh.
Well, make sure you don't attend the wedding. We can't include a high school graduate in our family circle.
She judges people by their educational background. Everyone has their circumstances, and being a high school graduate shouldn't be looked down upon. However, such logic didn't seem to apply to the mill, who had already labeled me as a failure. And her sarcasm was unbearable. Ashley was just like her mother. With all due respect, I started to rebut, but then my brother and Melissa returned to the table. I swallowed my words. I didn't want to cause a scene on my brother's special day.
What's wrong, Emily? You look pale.
That's true. Maybe she's just tired from meeting us. Sorry about that.
The two of them were very kind. I decided to change my mood and responded with a smile. No, it's not that. I just ate too much of the delicious food. I'm having a great time today. The mill and Ashley fell silent. They still wanted to hide their true nature from my brother, faking smiles to cover up. But the coldness in their eyes when they looked at me was unmistakable. Though we got through the situation, the thought of future family interactions weighed heavily on me. Just when I thought I had overcome my illness and grabbed my dream, well, at least Melissa, who's going to be my sil, is a nice person. His Phil didn't come, but I had encountered him through work. He was gentle and kind. Melissa must have taken after her father. Time flies, and before I knew it, the day of my brother's wedding had arrived. Of course, I attended. It was an important day for my brother. I decided not to mind whatever Ashley or the mill might say. The wedding was attended by many hospital colleagues and was a grand affair. My brother looked handsome, and Melissa in her wedding dress was breathtakingly beautiful. The simple design and the silk's luster highlighted her beauty and elegance perfectly. Congratulations, Sean, Melissa. Seeing my brother's happy smile made me feel even happier than if it were my own joy. The wedding went smoothly, and everyone moved to the reception. The atmosphere was lively, with entertainment starting. Looking over at the bride's family table, I saw the mill and Ashley drinking heavily. The mill's face was completely red. She seemed drunk. I hadn't often seen a bride's mother drunk at the reception, and felt a bit worried. My premonition would turn out to be right. The mill marched up to the venue staff hosting the event and took the microphone from the MC. Then, she began to speak. Before we knew it, Ashley was standing by her side.
Thank you, everyone, for gathering here today for my eldest daughter. It's wonderful to be surrounded by people of such high education and status.
Despite being drunk, she spoke eloquently, which was impressive. However, what she said next was unbelievable.
But there's someone here who doesn't deserve to be among us.
Exactly. It's Sean's sister, Emily. She's a lazy person with a habit of skipping, and she didn't even go to college.
Having only a high school diploma is a disgrace to the family. Please leave.
The room buzzed with whispers, and all eyes turned to me. I think my face turned so red, it was as if fire was coming out of it. I was so embarrassed. I didn't know where to put myself. How could they attempt to kick me out of my brother's wedding just like that, especially using my education background as the reason? And that information is wrong anyway. But I didn't want to ruin my brother's big day, so I stood up to leave. Then, someone walked toward the mill. It was my brother, the groom.
Wait, are you not aware of my sister's profession?
What?
Ashley shouted.
Emily's job. I know it. She's a part-time worker, right? Because she's just a high school graduate, she can only do bottom-tier jobs.
Then, another person hurried over. It was the Phil.
What are you all saying? Do you even realize what you've done?
But having a high school graduate in the family would be embarrassing, right?
No, Dr. Emily is a freelance doctor, a renowned specialist in cardiovascular surgery. Hospitals around the world seek her expertise.
What?
For Afshan's connections, she's agreed to perform a surgery at our hospital soon. It would be a disaster if she refused us now, considering how booked up she is.
But Ashley said Emily was just a high school graduate.
Ashley stood there, pale and shocked. In truth, I couldn't attend college because of my illness right away. However, thanks to Dr. Smith's surgery, I became healthy. Wanting to help others struggling with illnesses, I aspired to become a doctor. I studied hard and was admitted to a prestigious medical school. Furthermore, I passed the National Medical Licensing Exam. And under Dr. Smith's mentorship, I was recognized as a leading heart surgeon. The Phil, also the hospital director where my brother works, had eagerly requested my services for an upcoming surgery at his hospital.
Dr. Emily, please forgive my wife and daughter for their rudeness. We are truly sorry.
He deeply apologized, with Emil and Ashley standing dumbfounded beside him.
You two apologize now.
Urged by him, they reluctantly bowed their heads. However, their faces were tight with resentment. Please, Director, raise your head.
Can you forgive us?
I need to think about it. If we're going to work in the same hospital, I'll inevitably have to meet these two. I'd rather not if I can help it. I wanted to separate my professional life from this situation, but seeing the Mill and Ashley would undoubtedly bring back unpleasant memories. Cardiovascular surgery demands concentration, and any unnecessary distractions can lead to errors in the procedure. This affects the lives of our critical patients.
That's all right. I was planning on separating from my wife soon anyway.
Hearing that, the Mill's eyes widened in shock. It seemed as though her drunkenness sobered up instantly.
What are you saying all of a sudden? Why would you leave me?
Do you think I knew nothing?
His revelation was shocking. The Mill had been wielding her power as the director's wife within the hospital, known for her tyrannical behavior and harsh words. It had become a problem, with staff targeted by her suffering mentally or resigning. Moreover, she was indulging herself in visiting male host bars and keeping young men as lovers, doing whatever she pleased. It seems even the patient Phil had reached his limit. Ashley was apparently aiding her mother's whims. Ashley herself, without a steady job, lived off the allowance from her mother and led a carefree life. The Phil had resolved to cut ties with these two. If that's the case, it seems I needn't worry myself. The guests at the venue, who had been listening to this exchange in silent anticipation, seemed to understand who was in the wrong as murmurs began to spread. Terrible, aren't they? Causing trouble in the hospital as a mother-daughter duo. It's those two who should be leaving, whispered comments suggested as everyone looked disdainfully at the Mill and Ashley. Feeling unbearable embarrassment, the two of them fled from the venue. The reception continued without them, enveloped in a warm atmosphere, bringing relief.
Emily, I'm sorry for not noticing.
I'm truly sorry. My mother and Ashley said terrible things. We must have made you feel awful.
I should be the one apologizing for bringing trouble to your special day. I just want the two of you to be happy. It seems I would have a good relationship with my brother and his wife going forward. After that, the Phil and the Mill divorced. The Mill was also fired from the hospital. The Phil demanded compensation for infidelity from the Mill and her lover. Ashley was disowned by the Phil. Rumor has it that the Mill and Ashley now live in a dilapidated apartment, working part-time jobs to get by. It seems the Mill's lover discarded her shortly afterward. I continue my work as a doctor. Currently, I'm working hard alongside my brother to help those suffering from illnesses. Recently, I've found myself getting along well and having friendly conversations with one of my brother's colleague doctors. These days, I'm feeling a sense of happy anticipation.
Dad said that what happened that night is a secret, and that I absolutely must not tell anyone but I.
While speaking, Nellie started to cry softly as if remembering something painful.
What do you mean? What happened?
Actually, Dad, in my room. And the truth that Nellie revealed shocked me deeply. I can't believe my husband would do such a thing. My husband still claims it's for bonding and sleeps in her room. To corroborate the brave testimony that my daughter had given me, I stealthily removed my husband's pants late at night, careful not to wake him. Just as Nellie said. Then an unbelievable truth came to light. My name is Ruby. My husband, Mike, was part of a prominent soccer team in his school days and even aspired to go pro at one point. Although he never realized his dream of turning professional, he still plays futsal as a hobby. Mike tends to be somewhat self-centered, often prioritizing himself over his family. When our only daughter, Nellie, was born, even as I struggled with being a new mother, Mike would carelessly head out for his futsal games as if parenting had nothing to do with him. Hey, you became a father, you know? Can't you prioritize parenting a bit over your hobbies?
Huh? Parenting is your job. What's the point of having a stay-at-home wife anyway? I work under stress every day, so let me have my days off free.
It's true, I'm a stay-at-home mom, but it was Mike who wanted me to quit my job and take care of the home. Yet it's cruel how he berates me for speaking out when I don't work. But even when I objected, Mike wouldn't change his views. If anything, his outings only increased. Reluctantly, I tried to meet him halfway. As Nellie grew old enough to go out, I started attending his futsal matches.
Nice to see your family coming to watch the games. You must have a good family bond.
Oh, yeah, well.
Perhaps not minding it so much when we showed up, Mike seemed in a better mood. At home, his self-centered behavior continued, but deep down, even though I had some grievances, if this helped our family get along, I tolerated it. And so, we maintained a seemingly peaceful daily life on the surface.
Daddy.
One holiday, which was rare for Mike to be at home, our toddler Nellie toddled towards him. Then, with her unsteady steps, she accidentally stepped on Mike's foot. It was just the weight of a 1-year-old. However, Mike exploded with anger at Nellie for stepping on his foot.
What the hell? What if you had hurt my foot?
Suddenly yelled at by her father, Nellie, not understanding what was happening, began to cry in confusion. Come on, don't get so angry just because a child stepped on your foot.
It's your fault for not watching her. She wanders around and this happens. Keep her locked up somewhere when I'm around.
I understand that he values his feet because he plays futsal, but it's unlikely that a child stepping on him would cause injury. Fed up with his selfishness, I ignored Mike as I comforted the crying Nellie by holding her and reassuring her. Mike, displeased, muttered some complaints and left the house. To him, family seems to be a secondary concern, with his own needs always coming first. During our dating period, Mike's selfish nature was hidden, but now I truly wonder if it's okay to continue this marriage. But I couldn't take Nellie's father away from her while she was still so young. I just had to endure, trying to avoid upsetting Mike. And then 10 years passed. Nellie has grown into an upper elementary school student, becoming more and more like a young lady every day. She's begun to show more mature behavior and even shares stories about boys she likes with me, showing her delightful growth. As for her father, Mike, things are neither good nor bad. He still selfishly uses his free days for his hobbies, rarely being at home.
You guys being there distracts me and disrupts my game. You don't have to come watch anymore.
Though we used to go watch his games frequently when Nellie was younger, recently, Mike told us not to bother coming anymore, and those visits have ceased. I wasn't particularly interested in futsal, and I used to go to the games just to keep Mike in a good mood. So when he said that, I quietly stopped going. This allowed Nellie and me to spend our weekends more leisurely, which actually suited me better. But around that time, our family started receiving malicious pranks from someone. Just this morning, when I went to get the newspaper from the mailbox, there was a plastic bag inside. Not again. Who could it be? The contents, emitting a foul odor, were nothing but mushy, rotten garbage. Like this, every few days, there would be garbage stuffed in our mailbox or slanderous letters stuck on our front door with no recollection of provoking anyone. Feeling threatened, I discussed it with Mike.
It's just a prank. Don't worry about it.
However, Mike laughed it off. As he was hardly ever home, he treated it as if it was someone else's problem, which frustrated me. What if something happens to Nellie? This was way beyond a mere prank. So, I thought of calling the police.
No, stop that. It's definitely just temporary. If we call the police.
When I mentioned calling the police, Mike visibly panicked. Why? It would be better to consult them sooner and catch the culprit.
No, be more careful. Calling the police might provoke the culprit and escalate things even more. We should just watch a little longer.
Although it didn't sit right with me, Mike was so desperate against reporting it that I reluctantly agreed to wait a bit longer. Then one day, after some time had passed, Mike suddenly announced,
There's a sudden futsal scrimmage in the next county.
That's quite sudden. When will you be back?
Probably the day after tomorrow, I guess.
His vague attitude towards the sudden game made me suspicious. I felt distrustful of my husband's behavior, but pressing him would likely only result in being shrugged off or yelled at. So I kept quiet and sent him off, but Mike didn't return until 3 days later. You didn't contact me, and you came back later than you said. What happened? I was worried.
There were some troubles, and I got delayed. My phone died, and I couldn't contact you. It can't be helped.
Couldn't one of your teammates have had a charger? Why didn't you borrow one? No matter what I asked about what he had been doing, Mike gave excuses and eventually ended the conversation in annoyance. Was he really at a futsal game? His clearly suspicious behavior only made me more doubtful. And that night, when he finally came home, Mike suddenly said something odd.
I've been away for a while, so you must have been lonely. From today, I'm going to sleep in Nellie's room.
In Nellie's room? What brought this on suddenly?
I've been dumping all the parenting on you till now, right? I know it's late, but I'm reflecting on it. I need to cherish my time with our daughter more. That's what I've been thinking.
I was puzzled by what seemed like a change of heart, but Nellie seemed happy that her father would sleep in her room.
It's the first time I'm sleeping with Dad. I'm okay with it. Mom, it's okay, right?
Nellie hadn't often expressed feeling lonely, despite the frequent absence of her father. But perhaps she had indeed missed him. I was still confused, but seeing Nellie's reaction, I consented to let Mike sleep in her room, despite him previously getting upset just by Nellie touching his leg. What kind of change of heart was this? And there was another suspicious thing about Mike. He had always worn shorts at home, but from that day, he started wearing long pants. Mike usually preferred light clothing due to his dislike of heat, which made it all the more strange. One day, while Mike was in the bath, I went to the laundry area to wash some clothes, and as he was about to step out of the bath, he noticed me and quickly closed the bathroom door.
Why are you here? Get out of here quick.
Mike told me to leave the laundry area hurriedly and in a flustered manner. His attitude was clearly different from before. What's the matter? It's not like you'd be embarrassed being seen now? Weirdo. He seemed to be hiding something, but I couldn't figure out why. After that, it became routine for Mike to sleep in Nellie's room instead of our bedroom. Nellie didn't seem to mind, so I let Mike do as he wished. I would later deeply regret thinking this way, as it turned out to be a mistake. About a week after Mike started sleeping in Nellie's room, I received a call from Nellie's school. It was Nellie's teacher on the line, asking me to come to the school urgently because there was something we needed to discuss. Could it be that something had happened at school? No, it couldn't possibly be Nellie. Worried about what I might be told, I went to the school where the teacher asked me something unexpected.
Nellie seems to have been a bit down lately. Has anything happened at home?
Excuse me? The teacher asked this seriously, but I couldn't think of any reason. She acted cheerful in front of me, but maybe she was hiding some troubles. I told the teacher I would keep an eye on Nellie and left the school. When I got home, Nellie was watching TV in the living room, so I decided to talk to her. Nellie, I heard from your teacher. They said you seemed down lately. Is something bothering you? Want to talk to Mom about it? I made sure to ask her gently, so as not to sound accusatory. Nellie was initially silent, but eventually seemed to make up her mind.
Dad said, what happened that night is a secret and that I absolutely must not tell anyone but I.
As she spoke, Nellie started to cry softly, as if remembering something painful. What do you mean? What happened?
Actually, Dad, in my room.
And the truth that Nellie revealed left me deeply shocked. I decided to check something to corroborate Nellie's testimony. Mike still claimed he was sleeping in Nellie's room for bonding. Late at night, once I confirmed that Mike was in a deep sleep, I carefully removed his pants without waking him, just as Nellie said. For evidence, I took a photo of Mike in his underwear with my smartphone. Since I turned on the bedroom light for the shot, Mike eventually woke up to the disturbance.
What's going on? It's bright. Hey, what are you doing?
What am I doing? That's my line. What exactly is going on here? Explain yourself. I pointed at Mike's legs and shouted. There were multiple painful-looking cuts from his shins to his thighs. His sudden wearing of long pants and adamant avoidance of being seen naked were probably to keep these wounds hidden. What are these wounds? What are you hiding?
These are, injuries from a scrimmage.
These are from a game? They clearly look like cuts from a sharp blade. Mike stubbornly insisted they were from an injury during a game. According to Mike, he said he decided to sleep in Nellie's room until the cuts were less noticeable because he thought I would worry if I knew about the injury. And while Nellie was asleep, he He tried to change his bandages, but was accidentally seen by Nellie, who wasn't asleep yet. Mike had told Nellie not to tell me. However, Nellie thought her father had been attacked and injured by someone, which caused her to lose her spirits. Nellie was still in elementary school. The shock of suddenly seeing raw, unexplained wounds on her father's legs must have been immeasurable. Moreover, she was told to keep quiet about it. Nellie has a conscientious nature and believes that keeping secrets is wrong. She must have struggled greatly with whether to tell me the truth.
Don't make a big fuss about it. This is why I kept it from you. It'll heal soon.
That kind of talk. Don't you care that Nellie is shocked because of the weird way you hid this? Don't you think anything about that?
That's a mother's job to handle, isn't it? I'm tired, okay? Just let me sleep.
Mike gave a sulky look, pulled on his pants, went back to bed, covered himself with a blanket, and fell asleep. Mike is full of excuses, but he's absolutely crazy. He must still be hiding something. Although the conversation ended there, dissatisfied with Mike's strained excuses, I decided to discreetly meet with one of Mike's teammates to hear what they had to say. Then, an undeniable truth was revealed. According to his teammate, there hadn't been any practice matches in the neighboring county recently. And moreover, Mike had been skipping futsal practice increasingly for the past year. My husband, who had frequently claimed to be going to matches, had been lying all along. What does this mean? Where has Mike really been going? The mystery only deepened. Confronting him would likely not lead to a confession. But I couldn't just let Mike continue unchecked, so I decided to hire a detective to investigate him. The investigation revealed that Mike had been having an affair with a coworker named Emily for the past year. He had been using futsal practice as a cover to meet her frequently. So you were keeping secrets from me after all. I confronted Mike with the investigation report and a photo of him walking arm in arm with Emily, looking cozy together, which I shoved in front of him.
How? How did you get this?
Your strange behavior even started affecting Nellie. That's why I hired a detective. I never imagined you were cheating. Faced with irrefutable evidence of his affair, Mike was shocked and eventually admitted to his relationship with Emily. According to Mike, Emily was also the one who had been harassing our home. On the day he lied about the practice match in the neighboring county, he had actually been at a hotel with Emily. She had attacked him multiple times with a survival knife when they parted.
If you don't leave your wife, I'll make sure you can't play in the matches.
The numerous cuts were apparently her retaliation for Mike not leaving me.
I'm a victim too. I never thought she would do something like that. It was just supposed to be a fling, but she took it seriously.
Mike spat out resentfully. But ultimately, it was Mike's fault for initiating an affair despite having a wife and child. However, Mike didn't seem to think he was at fault at all. Emily, who had slashed Mike, had fled somewhere. With the weapon being a survival knife, it could have been life-threatening if things had gone slightly different. Luckily, the injuries weren't severe, but Mike was worried that if I found out about the wounds, I would discover his affair. Thinking this, Mike was forced to stay in a hotel until his injuries healed somewhat. Even after returning home, to avoid me seeing his legs, he decided to sleep in Nellie's room. He intended to keep the wounds a secret from Nellie too, but she accidentally saw them, and he reluctantly told her to keep quiet. But this ended up hurting our daughter.
If it's all out now, there's nothing to be done. I've broken it off with Emily, so don't worry about it anymore. I'll be coming home properly from now on.
Mike said this trying to appease me, but there was no way I could forgive him. Fearing that his affair would be exposed, Mike had not reported Emily's actions to the police. This meant that Emily was still at large and could potentially attack Mike again. And perhaps next time, She might direct her resentment towards Nellie or me. Thinking this, I could no longer stay in the house. The next day, while Mike was at work, I packed our things, left the completed divorce papers on the table, and left the house to pick up Nellie from school.
I've been so scared seeing the wounds on Dad's legs. Worried that someone might attack our family.
I'm sorry, Nellie, for making you feel scared. From now on, Mom will definitely protect you. I squeezed Nellie's hand reassuringly. Mike is unreliable. It's up to me to protect her. We explained our situation and decided to stay with my sister's family for a while. Later, when Mike, unaware of anything, returned home, Emily was waiting for him with a survival knife.
How long will you make me wait? Hurry up and leave your wife.
Wait, please wait.
Alarmed by Emily's unreasonable behavior, Mike fled the house calling for help. Fortunately, it was during a busy time of day, and soon after, someone called the police seeing Emily chasing Mike with a survival knife, and she was arrested on the spot. Learning about this on the news, I was relieved but also terrified by the thought that if we had delayed evacuating, we might have been harmed.
Now that she's caught, please come back home and lighten up.
Messages like this from Mike began arriving daily. In Mike's mind, everything seemed resolved, but I couldn't bring myself to reconcile with a man who had betrayed his family and put us in danger. When I told him that I had no intention of rebuilding our relationship and that we could no longer continue as husband and wife, Mike threw a tantrum.
Cheating is something every man does. I won't divorce. I'm not in the wrong. I tore up the divorce papers, so come back home.
Mike, completely refusing to admit his faults and stubbornly opposing divorce, dragged the proceedings out until they escalated to court. However, hiring a detective and secretly gathering evidence of the affair paid off, and the court fully recognized my claims. The divorce was finally granted, and Mike was ordered to pay a substantial amount in alimony and child support. Until the end, Mike kept asking me and Nellie to come back, but both of us had long since lost any affection for him.
I don't want to live with someone who hurt Mom. You never really cared about us in the first place.
How could you say that? After everything I've done for you, you ungrateful child.
Mike lashed out, hurt by Nellie's words.
I don't remember you raising me. I never want to see you again.
Perhaps those words were the final straw. Realizing he was unwanted by his daughter, Mike hung his head in defeat. Later, I learned through the news that Emily, arrested for assault, showed no remorse. Apparently, Emily answered with a smile.
Once I'm released, I want to see Mike again. I want us to live happily together this time.
Mike must have been horrified. Fearing Emily's release, Mike fled the town, and I have no idea where he lives now. To ensure we never accidentally encounter Emily once she's released, with help from my parents, we moved to a faraway state. There were anxieties about relocating, but I have my precious daughter with me. For her safety and happiness, I was ready to face any challenges. With a fresh start in a new place, we began our new life. Though initially nervous about the divorce and the move, Nellie eventually adjusted to her new elementary school and made many friends, showing her bright smile once again. Having caused her so much distress, I now want to give her only joyful experiences. Though I became a single mother, thanks to a competent lawyer, Mike had to pay enough alimony that we wouldn't face financial difficulties for a while. I started a job in our new home, but made sure to always be back by the time Nellie returned from school, keeping our communication strong. Nellie, having returned from school, eagerly ate the dinner I prepared. As my daughter excitedly told me about the fun things that happened today, her eyes sparkling, I realized that these simple, peaceful, everyday moments are what matter most.